Hello there, welcome. Today I'm talking about eating disorders, and welcome to all my fellow practitioners in this wonderful field of healing and bringing health and well-being to people. Perhaps everybody suffers from some form of eating disorder. So for example, if we find that we overindulge in certain foods, like chocolate, sugar, sugar-based products, alcohol, and so on. If we find, for example, that we struggle in the evening time when we want to keep eating while watching television, where we find that we're never satisfied. So for sure you are going to come across in your practice of clients who suffer from some form of eating disorder. So here's a few ideas that I found useful in treating people with an eating disorder. First is the metabolism. When the metabolism is based primarily on sugar, when a person gets most of their energy from sugar, it sets up a situation where the sugar burns very quickly in the body, and they demand more and more carbohydrates, especially sugar-based carbohydrates. The insulin spikes, and which again can intoxicate the body. So the first thing to think about is shifting the metabolism to more fat burning from sugar burning. And that's a reasonable approach. Also, you can find that people are not able to absorb the nutrients from their food due to a poor liver function, poor bile, low stomach acid. And in this case, the food isn't being broken down properly. And so even though they may be overweight, they are suffering from malnutrition. They're not getting or extracting the nutrition from the food. So this is another aspect to look at. And of course, we now move into the field of addiction. That many of us, and I've been addicted to chocolate for sure, are addicted to certain kinds of food, and this has all the hallmarks of an addiction. Some of my clients say, Raymond, it's lucky I'm not addicted to alcohol in the same way as I am addicted to food. Now, how do you work with this? Well, if you work with addictions in your practice, well then of course you will have some good ideas about this. But fundamentally, I am going along here with the great work that Alcoholics Anonymous has done on addictions, addiction to alcohol, and we can apply some of their approach to food addictions also. And it's getting the person to recognize, isn't it, that there is a power greater than them to which they have to surrender their powerlessness in relation to controlling the food. Of course, in addition to that, looking at the emotional basis for the addiction. Is there a biological conflict? Was there a food conflict, for example, a starvation conflict early in the life of the child, where they were given certain kinds of food that didn't nourish them and their cells and so on, and therefore this long-standing starvation conflict creates an insatiable appetite for certain kinds of food. Okay. So now let's move on from the more so-called milder food disorders. In fact, some of them are not so mild, to the more serious ones like bulimia and anorexia. Now, what we often find in the case of these more serious conditions is that there has been an ugly conflict, an ugly traumatic event in the young person's life. Often to do with sexual abuse, often to do with not being able to absorb something very ugly, and usually that's taken in the abdomen. and we call it an ugly abdominal conflict. And so what happens is that, for example, trying to purge the body in the case of bulimia, the person is literally, there's a very good biological reason for that, and they are literally trying to extract the ugliness by getting the food back up again. Often that ugliness is associated with food. In the case of anorexia, we can also see that the body image, that the attempt to keep the body of a young child because that body hasn't been able to evolve and grow, perhaps out of a fear of triggering the same kind of abuse or conflict that happened in the first place. Well, these are just a number of ideas that I have been working with in my practice here, and I thought you might be interested to hear something about them. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to another conversation. God bless you.